If you're wondering why you never feel successful or capable or just happy with yourself, then this post is for you. Negative emotions can co-opt and distort your strengths and victories, even the ones that would be obvious to anyone else, turning them into events of insignificance at best or proof of your failures, flaws and inadequacy at worst. And the cruelest thing is that this can all happen without you even being aware of it. So this post is here to help you work out what you could be missing. Here's an example. I spent 10 years of my life competing as a kickboxer and boxer, and 1 year at the World Championships in Spain, my mind was hell-bent on making me feel like a complete waste of space. It was the last day of the competition, and I'd won gold in the light continuous kickboxing category earlier that day. But light con wasn't really my favourite, so when I didn't lap up the victory, I told myself it was because I was waiting for the main event, the full contact final, later that day. When the time came, I stepped into the ring and I stared down my opponent in the opposite corner. She was strong and aggressive and put me on the back foot most of the first round. But in round 2 I seemed to be gaining some ground, and about 30 seconds before the bell I launched forward with a side kick aimed at my opponent's chin. She absorbed the shot and raised her guard again, but I could see a trace of defeat in her eyes. I knew the look because I'd felt that way. Just one last push, I told myself, and I'd have all I needed for the glory of the gold. And sure enough, as my right hand connected, her arms went limp and the referee called the fight. The world title was mine. But here's where it gets weird. Afterwards I grinned for photos with my teammates and I received all the hugs and high fives, but something was missing. I didn't feel proud or happy about what I'd just done. I really only felt a sense of relief that I hadn't lost. That night I stared at the ceiling of my hotel room, repeating the finals over and over, trying to find something to feel happy about. But aside from a couple of shots that I could say were okay, the overriding sense was one of disappointment and deflation. And worse, creeping up behind all of that was a familiar old feeling of shame. That feeling was something I'd been training for years to try and overcome. But there it was again, 2 world titles in one day, and I still hadn't done enough to fight it off. So what's up with this? In retrospect, I can see that back then I was living life totally focused on my crippling fear of failure. Deep down, regardless of any on-paper success, I believed I was a failure, and not just as a fighter, but as a human being in life in general. And this meant that all of my attention was channeled into that negative story, blocking me from even the possibility of feeling successful or good, and doing it so completely that even 2 gold medals couldn't break the spell. And this might seem like an extreme example, but after hearing countless stories from therapy clients over the years who've done exactly the same thing in different fields, all the same, I can tell you that we're all capable of doing this. Now the good news is that I didn't stay that way. In order to get past that stuff, what I had to do was stop trying to prove my fears wrong and instead start to accept them, acknowledge them, feel them, sit with them, all of which I hated. But in doing that, they lost their hold on me. Fear is just an emotion, it's not evidence, and beliefs aren't true, they only feel true. In order to shake ourselves free of these things, we have to look at them. So my question to you today is this. What could your fears be doing to your achievements, your joy, comfort, confidence? How could your self-doubts be tainting your experience of life? If you don't know what you're afraid of, then you won't be able to see how your fears warp your reality. And that's why it's so important to do the work. You can't run from fear, and you sure as hell can't fight it off. Believe me, I've tried. No, you have to face it, because when you own your fears, they no longer own you.